All right, so welcome everyone back to episode three, which is pretty wild to say. I think we've been moving pretty fast and smoothing along all the different areas around some of the different talk tracks and personas. Nasser, it's great to have you back on. How have you been?
I've been doing great. How are you?
Fantastic. Ready to do another episode on Now at Night
I'm
and
always ready.
certainly get us ready for our next host. I'm very excited. If you want to do the honors, why don't we go ahead and introduce our next person?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, this person came to my team back when I was working with
Interesting.
you. Definitely stood out as one
Yeah,
of the best essays I've honestly seen working for ServiceNow.
great.
Um, she is the humble Michelle Campos.
Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on. I feel a little flattered after that introduction.
We are
Thanks.
in the presence of greatness.
Yeah.
Feelings mutual. So glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. And this is just a reiteration. This is ServiceNow employees, but none of the things that we're seeing here are directly related to our positions in ServiceNow or can be taken as a direct recommendation to anything related to ServiceNow. This is kind of like the safe harbor we have to do, especially when we're talking to someone within ServiceNow. So whoever is listening, we've done our legal part. Now we're just a couple of friends chatting here. So don't take anything that we say here too seriously.
Yes, good disclaimer. Really appreciate that. So, Michelle, I think we're going to kick it off here, and we've got a couple of questions that Nasser and I have provided and prepared today. And so we're really looking forward to some of the responses. Obviously, all of our listeners being able to really get to know who you are, what you've brought into your space and your industry, and a little bit more around some of the fun activities you like to do outside of, the work and life balance. So, Nasser, why don't we start with that first question?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Michelle, actually gonna put up the question so I can read it verbatim.
Perfect.
Your first job before technology, or have you always been in the tech industry? So I guess what we're trying to say here, how did we get so lucky by having you join us in ServiceNow?
Well stated.
Lucky might be kind of pushing it, but yeah, no, actually, you would laugh, but I was terrified of technology whenever I first got out of high school, starting my career path. With technology was the furthest thing that I would ever see myself doing, along with public speaking, which now I'm kind of doing both in a sense, right? So a lot of people have reached out to me that have known me for many, many years, and they just laugh at where I'm at now. But my first role prior to moving into a technology role was I was in underwriting for real estate. I was the one that was taking the blood samples and the hair follicles anytime you wanted to buy a house.
Oh. Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, it was interesting until we had the big boom in 2008, and I decided it wasn't for me or big bust, not boom, big bust,
Mm.
and decided it wasn't for me anymore. Whenever I saw a lot of people losing their houses, so my ethics kind of kicked in, and I said, you know what, this just isn't the role for me, and kind of transitioned into IT. Tech support is where I started. So.
Okay. And how did you fall into that? How did you basically say these are the qualities that I've learned from working in real estate and all of the, I want to say, politics behind that? And how did you translate that into saying, okay, now I want to move into tech and I'm going to start working with tech support?
Yeah. So it was one of two fields that were the fields to really move into that you could have a future in, right? And it was either
Mhm.
technology or nursing, right? Or
Yeah.
medical field. Those were
Yeah.
the two fields that were like on my radar. And I can't deal with blood or or bodily fluids of any kind. So that was definitely not an opportunity for me there. And then actually, my father's been in technology for a long time, so there was some openings that kind of I guess windows that opened up for me where I ended up in technology working for a school district that my father worked with as well. And I went back to school and
Nice.
really focused in on educating myself around the technology and stopped being scared of it. So that's how I ended up here.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a very unique path.
Yeah.
Stumbles along the way, but it's my path, and I enjoyed every step of it. So
Yeah, and honestly, might add to that is I feel like everyone who ended up in technology did not necessarily say, hey, I'm gonna be working in technology someday. It's one of those things that we kind of all found ourselves in. I remember back in high school, actually, I wanted to be a veterinary, and I was very adamant on that
Oh, wow.
until, yeah, one day one of my teachers just took me to the side and he's like, so I heard that you were gonna be a veterinary after school. I was like, yeah. And he's like, why? It's like, well, I don't like animals. I like helping animals and all of that. And then he just looked me straight up in the eye and say, you can help animals no matter if you're a vet or not. That's not a
Mm.
reason for you to be a veterinary.
I love
And that
that.
was like a slap to my face because I was like,
Ah,
that
yeah,
really shattered my dreams.
right.
And look at me now. I'm not a veterinary.
But
I was
in
kind of in the same path. I was going for
yeah.
zoology in college. Wanted to work with
Oh, that's
animals.
so interesting. That's so
Uh,
interesting.
yeah. So I guess, we're meant to be where we're meant to be at this point.
Honestly, it
So,
comes full circle. I wanted to actually work at the zoo. I
Ah,
started in marine biology. I was
wait.
really good at chemistry, but I hated math and numbers. And
Hmm.
so I went back to school and said, maybe I should try PE, right? Physical education teacher. I'll be a gym trainer. That
Yeah.
didn't. All of a sudden, computers just kind of clicked. And
Yeah.
kind of to your point, Nasser and Michelle, it's, not necessarily what I was doing, it's how I was doing it and
Hmm.
applying what I had learned from these different connections and human interactions, as well as with my best friends, right here on this call. And
Yeah.
so, really, when I think about this podcast, it's more than just, the now at night. It's really about these stories and how they're so interconnected and woven into the fabric of where we've formulated these very unique and fun experiences. So, I really appreciate you both sharing that. And I think that's a great kind of segue, Michelle, into our next question. You spoke about technology, you spoke about different areas outside of technology. I'm curious, how did you or when did you land your first solution consulting job? If you're happy to share where that was, that's great. If not, that's fine. But curious when you landed your first job, what that was like, and how long you were in that space before you came over to ServiceNow.
yeah. So I don't know if it's okay to share, but it's here. This is my first role,
Oh,
right?
wow,
So
fantastic. We love to hear
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
yeah, I've always been in the practitioner space. So I've always
Oh, wow,
been,
okay.
on the space of using the tool from a customer's perspective.
Mm,
So whenever I had the opportunity to come in and actually, work within the consulting side of it, I looked at it and I said, this is the opportunity for me to reach broader customers, right? Versus me working in one silo. And I say silo as far as one customer and bringing help and wealth of knowledge around ITAM just within the customer I'm working for. Now I can do that on a wider span, and so that was kind of how I ended up into the solution consulting. But yeah, I joined about 2.5 years ago, and wouldn't undo that for anything. I love it. Love to be able to talk to other customers and really kind of get perspectives because there's a lot that goes into, and I guess we should say, I focus in asset management, right? And that's been my life for a really long time. So love to kind of nerd out when we talk about that. But that's, yeah, that's my first role in solution consulting.
wow. That's quite a phenomenal role and a huge milestone to you. So kudos to all the work and experiences and everything that you've given to the community, right? Because ServiceNow is certainly a community for everyone to
Yes.
share their creativity, their innovations, as well as where they aspire to build out different types of outcomes. So I think that's fantastic. Nasser, I think this is a great segue into some fun questions. I think we had another one around some areas that Michelle might be able to give us around external fun types of, in activities and events that might be outside of the workload and some of the areas that require more of those hands-on hands experiences. So go ahead and take
Yeah.
that away. See if we can get
Yeah.
some
But
information from Michelle.
before we actually get to that, I have a leading question to the
Yeah.
previous one. So you did mention that you did have a fear of public speaking, and then this job kind of came across your way where you're going to be a solution consultant who is going to be actively basically publicly speaking to everyone that you're going to
Yeah.
be onward. So this is kind of actually a great point that we want our listener to take out of this is that sometimes we will be put in positions where we are kind of being pushed outside of our comfort zone, leading into something that we've always hated or didn't want to do. So, how did that work out for you? How did you basically receive that job in a sense of this is what I have to do, and it involves something that I'm kind of not happy doing? And how did you kind of get over that and decided to still join? If you can talk about that, that I think would be very helpful to our listeners.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you pick up on it because that it really was a fear of mine. It's a fear of a lot of customers. I've done some research on, or customers, a lot of people out there, right?
Mhm.
I've done a lot of research behind this, and I think it's either the second most fear outside of drowning.
Wow.
So it's a big thing
Believe
out
it.
there, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and I think and I'll speak for myself, it was being judged, right? Getting up there in front of people and worrying about them judging you on what you're saying, how you're standing, what you look like, a lot of
Mhm.
different
Yeah.
things. And I think at one point, even it was more during the interview process, and I said, you know what? Let people judge, I just need to get past this fear, just like other fears I've had in my life that I had to get past. And I slowly worked into being more comfortable. But I would say every time that I get up and talk in front of anybody, whether it's
Mhm.
at workshops or, our events and things of that nature, there still gets that anxiety. But I think if you don't get outside that comfort zone, you never grow. And so
Absolutely.
that I just
Well said.
continue to push myself to get out of that comfort zone. And I think we all three here know, like in, in solution consulting, it can be uncomfortable a lot of times because you go in, you talk to customers, you don't know where the conversation is going to go or questions they're
Mhm.
going to ask, but you just come in and you do the best. And I think that's where I was kind of at whenever I went through the process of saying, you know what, I just got to get over this fear and I'm just going to do the best that I can do and hopefully be successful at it. And that's where I got. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think honestly, one of the things that I personally struggled with is that sometimes, yeah, I might know it all and I might have all of the answers to the questions that I potentially will get asked. But I've always gotten into the idea of you never know who you're going to be talking to and how they're going to be perceiving what you're saying. So even if you have all of the answers in the world, the person just could have had a bad day and that could be translated to the way that they speak to you. So I think that solution consulting is definitely one of those things that you have to kind of walk on a thin line between you have to constantly be professional in what you say and how you do, but at the same time, you also have to understand where the other person is coming from and tune in to the frequency that they are speaking to you from. So you
Mhm.
kind of basically are
Mhm.
on the same page, both of you.
yeah, you make a huge point. And even to extend that even more, you have to be comfortable with saying, I don't know the answer, but
Mm,
let me find out
Yes.
for you, right? And I think
absolutely.
that was the hardest thing for me to get to, right?
For everyone.
We all want to be those experts. We
Of
all want to be
course.
able to say, like, hey, here's the answer, we're right, move forward. But a lot of times you don't, we can
Yeah.
only squish so much so much stuff into our brain. And sometimes we have to go and find it out. But I think a lot of customers that we interact with appreciate that we are willing to say we don't know and that we're willing to find out. So
No,
um, that was a struggle for sure.
no, I completely agree with you. I always praise myself on being Mr. Know-it-all. So actually, I don't know that one was definitely a hard thing for me.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I bet our listeners are kind of tired of us just talking about our jobs and what we do for work. So let's kind of make this fun. Outside of work, what are your favorite hobbies and what are the things that people might not know about you? Also, on top of that, how do you basically balance between making sure that you're getting all of your job responsibilities taken care of and at the same time have time to spend on these different hobbies and interests?
Yeah, good question. So interesting enough, I probably the thing that it would shock the most people is I enjoy kickboxing. I'm getting older in age, so it's slowing down, right? But I've done kickboxing for almost 15 years now.
Wow.
Really enjoy it. I do it more now for the cardio than for actually any kind of protection or anything like that. But yeah, that's kind of my release. Getting out there, hitting the punch bag,
Mhm.
kind of sparring with my husband every now and then when we're mad at each other. But yeah, it's a
That's
great
awesome.
release. It's a great release for sure. The other thing is I have dogs. So I have three dogs, and I'm picking up I'm this crazy dog person, but I'm picking up a puppy next Wednesday, and
Oh,
I'm really excited to introduce her to the clan. But that's probably the other thing I do is walk my dogs with my husband often. So we go on 2 walks every day,
nice.
and then extra long walks on the weekend, just to kind of get the release. So yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
then, yeah, I now I got so excited to talk about kickboxing and my puppies, I
No,
forgot the second part of that question.
No
no,
worries.
no, please. I
This
want to
is all
hear
good.
more about both of them. So, how did you get into kickboxing?
Yeah, my husband does MMA, more jiu-jitsu, right? He's been
Okay.
doing that for a really long time. He got into that way before I got into kickboxing, and one day he invited me to a kickboxing course at the where he does the jiu-jitsu. And
Yeah.
I was sold after a 1 hour session. I was dripping with sweat. I don't think my heart rate had ever been that high before in my life.
Wow.
And I couldn't get enough of it. And so I did that for a long time. I've done a couple of competitions around that where
Wow.
weight loss competitions. So probably not what you're thinking. I'm not going out there and beating up people, but uh, weight loss competitions where I actually lost a lot of weight and I got almost $2,000
Wow.
within 2 competitions from winning. So that drove it even
Wow.
more, right? Like, oh goodness,
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Michelle over
right?
here.
Love it.
That's
But
amazing.
yeah,
I did not
I've
know that
all
about you. That's very cool.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I've known Michelle for how long now, and
I know,
this is
right?
I hear of it. Now I'm kind
Literally.
of scared.
It's like I've kickboxed, but now I'm not sure if I'm really prepared.
Yeah.
Michelle does
well,
kickboxing? Yeah, that's all I need to know. Yikes. That's
I
so cool
definitely have some
though.
strong legs, so yeah,
Love
yeah.
this.
Nobody sneak up behind me, but yeah,
Yeah.
I love
Right.
it. It's again
Kick them in
just a way
shape.
to release. Yeah, it's a way to release
Absolutely.
the tension for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well,
yeah,
thank you for sharing that. I think that's a good segue into kind of understanding, right? Now we know some of the fun things you do outside of work, right? Kicking back, also kicking some bags to release some of the tension and also get a physical sweat in. Curious, we've got a lot of people out here now. So I think you can agree with me. Every time I get on LinkedIn, any social media site, how can I become this, right? How can I get into ServiceNow? How can I start learning about ITAM, right?
Mhm.
And there's a lot of people out there in the space wondering what are some good recommended resources? Should I reach out to people in Snugs, right, or ServiceNow groups, or go on YouTube, books? Is there maybe some recommendations for someone who's
yeah.
coming into that space, Michelle, that you might have just to point them into the direction of this is where, I saw some really unique insights that helped me influence the decision to go through ITOM and also, in addition to that, helped me, right, in my journey. So would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I'll start out with how I kind of got here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I I had a mentor, a C level mentor. I won't say her name, that I had lunch with one time, and we were talking about her career path and how she got to where she was. And one thing that she said that really stuck out with me, and this is, I mean, 10 plus years ago, so obviously it made a big impact, was go out there, find out what you're good at, and then find out what other jobs people don't want, right? And make yourself focused into that, right? So, are you good at this? And what does somebody else not want? And when you get into the IT space, a lot of times the people that, what they want to do in IT is go in and they want to code and they want to solve problems and do that kind of piece. What they don't want to do is deal with regulations and audits and things of that nature,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. But if you take my background where I came from, where underwriting, there was a lot of correlation, right? And so I knew I was good at dotting my I's and crossing my T's and that portion of it. I didn't mind regulations. Audits, I hated. I still hate can't deal with that, right? But that's how I built my career in asset management a long time ago, 10 plus years ago, was an up and coming thing, right? And so that's really where I thrived. And then how I managed to educate myself, and I want to stress on educate yourself, is always be out there looking for things, making sure that you're proactively going out there and identifying changes that are coming down, around licensing, understanding the tool that you're using, right? In this case, ServiceNow. Really getting in, and somebody said in one of my last workshops, be that sponge, right? Find out what you don't know and go out and learn it. Where I learned a lot of the framework around asset management was going out and doing some certifications. It's the company or website that you use is ITAM. And they have a lot of certifications around HAM and SAM and disposal. And it really will teach you the framework of what is asset management. And then you use that and, roll it together with, a tool or spreadsheets or whatever, that is, but you base your processes really with understanding the framework of asset management. Another one that's really good is newsletters. So there's an ITAM review that sends me, I'm set up for automatic notifications around newsletters, things that are going on in the environment, changes. Kind of glance through that and see if there's something that I need to be aware with, understanding, right? And then I think we've kind of mentioned it, network, right? Going out there and networking with other people that are in the roles that you want to move into. I have people reach out to me often in LinkedIn, and they're like, hey, I want to work for ServiceNow, or I want to get into asset management. What does this look like? And so when you do that, hopefully we're all being good people and helping mentor these people, right? And getting them educated so that they can be the next season that rolls into our positions when we retire and leave. But yeah, just go out there and network, have conversations, try and reach out to people. And networking has gotten me into more roles than I've been in. I don't know how to say this, more roles than I've been in that I haven't been in without networking. So making sure that you build your brand and build your network is huge.
That was beautifully put. Honestly, building that mentorship, right? Having that relationship with that mentor, I think is very, impactful, as you mentioned, and then building your own brand, right? Investing in yourself is really what I took away from that, Michelle. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. Naser, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries. I was just gonna ask, there's also another part of this, which is being a woman in tech and being a woman in asset management.
Great
How
call
do
out.
you navigate through that? I feel like us being in the privileged position of just being men, unfortunately, that's kind of, I don't know, we can not really relate or understand the struggles that women will have to go through, or even non-binary folks in the community of tech and in the community of asset management specifically. So can you shed some light on that?
Yeah. It is a struggle, and it kind of goes back to public speaking, right? Public speaking in front of mostly men, right? When you get into tech, can even be more intimidating. But yeah, whenever I first moved into the role I'm in now, I was actually keeping a tally of how many women were on the call versus how many men, just for my own knowledge.
Oh yeah.
And I would say 95% of my calls were dominated by men versus the women, right? But only a few of those calls did I ever feel like I was not welcome to the conversation, right? So I do feel like there's a lot of growth that's going on, where we are now finding a place at the table that we can actually, our opinions matter and they care about them. So it's been a lot. There's the kind of that struggle of getting past that hurdle. But once you kind of open up and just go in and be yourself, I feel like in the most times I'm more than welcome, and they're listening to me. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love to hear that.
It was definitely scary. getting into this, going from, within real estate, it's more female, right? There's a lot more females in there, and I think I worked with I had one male on my team, and
Wow.
Yeah.
the rest were females, right? And so then making that transition into tech was like completely went the opposite direction, but it was good. I'm happy to be where I'm at.
That's amazing. And honestly, I think that's also something that we definitely, as the generation now in tech working, is that this is one of the things that we constantly keep in mind, is that we don't really care about the gender of who we're talking to or how they personally identify and all of that, because at the basis of all of this, we're all humans and we're all
Yeah.
here basically doing the same thing. So the most important thing is that we need to treat our or each other with respect and take everyone's opinion to heart, because everyone is knowledgeable in the area that they work in. So we can definitely, or we should always listen to the experts and don't care who they are, where they come from, or how they personally identify. So this is
Yeah.
something we are definitely paving the way for the next generations, hopefully.
I couldn't say it any better. Ditto, right? Like I think we're all growing. And so I think understanding that behind each voice is a human is really important. So.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. I really love this discussion, honestly. This is definitely something that's been inspiring me and giving me some, tips and tricks to be more mindful
Mhm.
of that human connection that we make with each other, right? To your point, Nasser and Michelle, it's so important that we lead every discussion with empathy and kindness,
Mhm.
knowing that all of us are intelligent in our own ways. We all have
Mhm.
our own strengths and weaknesses, right? We're not perfect. We're perfectly imperfect, which is great. That's how
Absolutely.
we can help become vulnerable and provide a safe space to have things like this, like our podcast, Astounding Board, where we can meet fantastic individuals like Michelle and learn some fun things, some trial and error areas, as well as some areas where we can bring more, surfaces and insights into women in technology, which is something we do here at ServiceNow, which is fantastic. So it's really good to see that diversity and inclusion that we continue to promote here. So I'm really excited. Just this conversation has been phenomenal and very heartwarming. So I just wanted to pass that along to you both.
Thanks for inviting me. I agree.
Absolutely.
I've loved working with y'all the past, yeah, and y'all. So
Same.
I'm from Houston here. Sorry, y'all's gonna come out, but yeah, I love working with y'all. And even though we're not on the same team, every time we come back together, it's a joy to speak with y'all. So thank you for
Absolutely.
having me.
Absolutely. I think we had just a real quick kind of like a fast five section here where we asked just very quick questions. And they're just fun questions, Michelle, for you. And
Yeah,
Nasser,
shoot
if
them
you
off.
wanted to ask them, we could just kick it off there and then we'll end today's episode 3 with Michelle. But let's go ahead and ask some quick, fun last minute questions. I think will leave all of us with some smiles here from the podcast.
Absolutely. So I'll start with one that honestly, I feel like I ask this question to everyone I meet because it helps
Yeah.
the character, which is what is your favorite Disney movie? And when we say Disney, Pixar is also included. All of the animated ones are included.
Yes.
You don't have to call it Disney, but what's your favorite animated movie?
Yeah, so I'm old. I'm gonna show my age, but Dumbo is
Oh,
probably one
That
of
is
my
my mom's
favorites.
favorite movie.
Yeah,
So
Dumbo's
good.
my first, and a really close runner-up is Lady and the Tramp.
oh,
So those are my two favorite. But Dumbo, you're gonna laugh, but it's relatable to me because I had big ears whenever I was growing up, and I was teased a lot whenever I was in younger school, like elementary and junior high, about it. And so even though Dumbo's an elephant and meant to have big ears, that was kind of the thing where they would tease him about it. So it was just kind of relatable to me. And of course, who doesn't love big floppy ears all the time? So that's my favorite movie. Yeah.
absolutely. And Chris, I'll hand it to you for the next one.
Perfect. Thank you for that. For the next question, let's say you're stuck on an island. What's the one food you absolutely have to have on this island?
Oh goodness. Um, so I am a Peruvian food addict. So
Ooh.
they have the best cuisine, and my favorite is called pollo sentado, which is like
Ooh,
a
pollo saltado, yes.
okay. So
Very
you
good.
know,
I
yeah.
do know. We have a
I
Peruvian
made,
place near my house, so I frequent it.
yeah. I made it yesterday, and I can't wait to sit down and eat it for lunch. So eat the leftovers. But yeah, I would say something in the Peruvian
I
dish
love it.
world. Pollo sentado, lomo sentado. I could definitely live on those probably for quite some time. So
I would be on
yeah,
that same island with you.
Yeah.
there we go. There we go.
I was just gonna say, there's a chain of restaurants, Nando's. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it,
Oh,
but
yes.
yeah, it's like Peruvian food, and oh my
Yeah, Nando
God,
Peri Peri. Yeah.
oh my
I've
God,
had it. We actually have one in our mall.
every day. It's very
Every
funny that
day.
it only exists on the east side or the east coast, not
Yeah.
the west coast.
Interesting.
uh,
It's
Yeah,
interesting.
growing up, I used to eat it all the time, and every time I'm in London, my family actually laughs at me because when I'm in London, I primarily eat two places, Wagamama and Nando's, and I mean it. It's like I eat one for lunch and one for dinner. I rotate.
that's your island.
There you go.
That's literally
Yeah,
my
his island is a whole continent.
Yeah.
yes.
I love it. Now, it's our
So,
last
Awesome.
question for Michelle. I think this is going to be the fun one since we're coming up to this date
Halloween,
actually. So go
yes.
ahead.
So Halloween is coming right up. What are you gonna be for Halloween?
Uh, so Halloween's my favorite holiday out of the year
Love.
because it's right before my birthday. So
Oh,
I've
nice.
always grown up having Halloween birthday parties. So it's just kind
Nice.
of been put into my DNA. And actually, Saturday night, myself and my husband are going to a costume party, and we will be dressing up as Han Solo and Princess Leia. So,
Wow.
Chris, I know you'll understand that because of our whole stormtrooper conversation we've had before. But
Yep.
yeah, that's the only way. My husband does not like Halloween, does not like dressing up. So that's the only way I could convince him to do it was pick something that he would actually like to do. So
Well, now we have to get pictures.
yeah, I will definitely share pictures after this.
Please.
So I'm going to make sure that I catch as many pictures as I can with him because this might be the one and only time I ever get him to dress up for
It's your
Halloween.
birthday gift.
Yeah. So awesome. Are y'all dressing up? I'm going to pose the question back to you.
Yes, actually, I came up. So last year for Halloween, I was Cartman from South Park. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, and this year I want to be Randy, also from South Park.
Oh, wow. I just went to Casablanca,
Oh my
Casa
God.
Bonita.
Oh my
Casa
God.
Bonita. Yeah.
I really want to go. How was it?
We did a workshop and then we took the customers there. It was perfect. It was great.
Ah,
Yeah.
I should
It was
switch
a
to
lot
my
of fun. So yeah, that's awesome.
How about you, Chris? Where are you gonna be for Halloween?
I am not sure. I am actually in between costumes. I'm
Okay.
either going to be Wolverine or some Star Wars character. I haven't decided yet, but I'm going to be making my costume this year, so stay tuned.
Oh wow.
Hopefully, we'll turn
Wow.
out to
You're
what I
running
want
out
it
of
to be. Yeah,
time.
Gen AI, SecOps all over. Yeah,
Yeah.
ITAM on the side. Yeah, but I'm very
That's
much
awesome.
excited for the festivities and most importantly the candy. So.
I can't forget the candy.
Yeah, it's the most important part.
Awesome.
Well, I really, really appreciate this, both of you, Nasser as well. Michelle, thank you so much just for gracing us with your presence, with your journey, with your stories, and always keeping everything humble. All of our interactions have just been phenomenal, and I'm really glad that we were able to have you on one of our podcasts.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. This was a lot of fun. So thanks
Echoing
very much.
everything Chris said. Thank you so much, Michelle. You constantly, honestly inspire us. So it's a great pleasure to
Yes.
have you on the podcast. And this is definitely not going to be last time. So be prepared for the
No,
next.
that's for sure.
I'm excited. Let's keep the show going.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and sign off from the Now at Night podcast. Thank you so much. My name is Chris.
And I am Nasser.
And thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us. We'll see you later. Thanks to everyone for joining. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.